Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine your world, everything you know, suddenly shifting. Your job, the one you've poured your heart into for years, vanishes overnight. Your savings, carefully tucked away for a rainy day, are just gone. This isn't a nightmare. For millions of Americans, this was the stark reality of the Great Depression. Let's travel back in time, not just to look at black and white photos, but to truly feel what it was like to live through one of the most challenging decades in history. It all started with a crash. Not a car crash, but the stock market crash of 1929. They called it Black Tuesday. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under the entire country. Suddenly, the Roaring Twenties, a decade of prosperity and parties, came to a screeching halt. Banks, once seen as pillars of security, began to fail one by one. People would line up 4 blocks, desperate to get their money out, only to find the doors locked and their life savings evaporated. For an ordinary family, say, the Smiths in a small town in Ohio, life changed in an instant. Mr. Smith, a factory worker, gets the news. The factory is closing. There's no severance, no final paycheck. Just a sorry, we're done. Come som. His shoulders slumped, the weight of the world on them. Mrs. Smith looks at him, then at their 2 young children playing on the rug, and a cold fear grips her heart. How will they eat? How will they pay rent? The first few weeks are a scramble. They sell their nice furniture, Mrs. Smith's wedding ring, anything of value. They cut back on everything. Meat becomes a rare luxury. A meal might be a thin soup made from potatoes and onions, or just bread and water. The laughter that once filled their small home is replaced by a heavy, anxious silence. The children, too young to understand economics, just know they are always hungry. Soon, they can't make rent. The eviction notice is nailed to their door. They pack what little they have left into a single suitcase and join the endless stream of people on the roads. They've heard whispers of work out west, in California, where the fields are supposedly full of fruit and opportunity. So, they become part of the Great Migration, piling into a beat-up old car they bought with their last few dollars, or simply walking, hoping for a better life. But the road is unforgiving. It's lined with families just like them, their faces etched with worry and exhaustion. Along the way, they see settlements popping up on the outskirts of cities. People called them Hoovervilles, a bitter jab at President Hoover. These were shantytowns built from scrap wood, cardboard, and tin. Families lived in makeshift shacks, exposed to the elements, with no running water or sanitation. It was a bleak landscape of human despair. When they finally reach California, the promised land isn't what they imagined. Yes, there are farms, but there are thousands of workers for every single job. A farm owner might need 100 people to pick peaches, and 1,000 desperate men show up, willing to work for pennies. The competition is fierce, and tensions run high. The Smiths might get a day or 2 of back-breaking work under the scorching sun, earning just enough to buy a loaf of bread. Then it's back to waiting, hoping, and praying. Back in the cities, things were just as grim. Bread lines and soup kitchens became a common sight. Men in suits, who just a year ago were successful businessmen, now stood in line for hours for a bowl of soup and a piece of bread, their pride swallowed by the gnawing ache in their stomachs. People did what they could to get by. Some sold apples on street corners. Others shined shoes or collected scrap metal. Every day was a battle for survival. But here is the most important part of the story. In the midst of all this hardship, the human spirit, while battered, was not broken. Communities came together. Neighbors shared what little food they had. A family with a working radio would invite everyone on their block to listen to the news, or a comedy show, a brief escape from their troubles. People found joy in simple things. A song, a story, the kindness of a stranger. The government eventually stepped in with programs like the New Deal, creating jobs, building roads, bridges, and parks. It was a slow, arduous process, but it offered a glimmer of hope. It was a sign that someone was trying to help, that they weren't forgotten. These programs didn't magically fix everything overnight, but they put food on the table for many families and began to slowly rebuild the nation's confidence. As the years went on, the economy began to heal, spurred on by the industrial demands of World War II. People started to find steady work again. The bread lines shortened. The Hoovervilles were slowly dismantled, but the scars of the Great Depression remained. The generation that lived through it was forever changed. They became famously frugal, known for saving everything, for never taking anything for granted. They understood, in a way we can only imagine, how quickly everything can be lost. So why do we tell this story? Because it's a powerful reminder of our shared history and our resilience. It teaches us about economic fragility, but more importantly, it teaches us about the strength of community, the importance of empathy, and the incredible endurance of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming adversity. The Great Depression wasn't just a series of statistics or historical dates. It was millions of individual stories of struggle, survival, and ultimately, hope. Thank you for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story meaningful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments what part of this story resonated with you the most. See you next time.